Everyone goes through these dark times. Although you're going through this, there is that light at the end of the tunnel. You are going to get out of that state. Like a diamond in the rough, it has to be cut and polished to bring out its true beauty. You have to go through all these processes to develop your character and your sense of purpose to make it more strong and more focused.
Empowering you in purpose, personal stories, life lessons, and sustainable art. This is Tales and Tea with Lakshmi B. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tales and Tea with Lakshmi B. This is episode 2, and today we are going to be talking about the journey of transformation, the pain of self-transformation, and how to get through it. This is the ultimate growth journey. So before we get stuck into the episode, I have my incredible co-host. It is Susan, the B in Lakshmi B. Hello.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Good. Good to have you in the studio.
Yeah, great to be here.
Are you excited to join me on the podcast?
Yes, definitely.
So before we get stuck in, we're going to pour ourselves some delicious tea. What tea do we have today?
It's like a flavour of orange and coconut.
Oh, this is the one I smelled yesterday.
It's got a very nice sort of florally, coconutty aroma. Very healthy tea. It's all made of natural ingredients.
Which is what we love.
And to go with it, I've made your favourite.
What's that?
Choc chip cookies.
Choc chip cookies!
And I've actually made them there's a couple there, they're made in different ways.
Oh.
One is made of beans, believe it or not.
Beans in a choc chip cookie?
Yeah. And the other one has a combination of spelt flour and almond flour.
Oh, wow. This will be interesting.
And they're made with either no sugar, like sweetness only from fruit, like dates, or a small amount of coconut sugar, which is a more naturally processed sugar.
Wow. I'm not surprised because I actually eat these quite a lot.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely delicious, and you can't tell that they've been made from alternative, natural ingredients. For some of you that don't know, so Susan B in Lakshmi B is my mother, and she runs her own cooking channel, Lavender Cocoa Kitchen, where she turns your favorite food into a beautiful, delicious vegan version.
Better for you.
Yes.
Because we don't use too much of processed food and we cut down on the sugar.
For anyone who doesn't care about that and you just want to eat something that tastes nice, well, these taste delicious and they're good.
Yeah. Don't like to eat something unless it tastes good
so
as
she
well.
had to work extra hard to make sure they taste good or we won't eat them.
Yeah, exactly.
So while she is pouring the tea, basically today's episode is something I really felt was important to share because it's something that we have gone through personally, and it's something that I continue to go through in many different seasons of my life. You know where you want to be and you have an idea of how you're going to get there. Maybe you have some goals or some dreams, things that you've broken down and that you're working towards. But you know there are some things that you need to change internally to receive this new life. These changes are painful and you may feel like giving up, but the destination is too good to let go. How do you find peace in this current state and develop the strength to continue onward? In this episode, we're going to share some of the struggles that we face in our own personal journey in progression towards our dreams, some of the struggles that we faced along the way in our own process of self-transformation, and also share some of the tools that we have personally used to get through challenges, overcome the mountains, get to the other side, and a little step closer to that dream and big goal that we have envisioned for our lives, and the mindsets that we had to take on to help us get to the place we know we needed to be. The foundation of our message today is John 15, one of my favorite power verses from the Bible. And this is all about the importance of being connected to the vine. We have these beautiful couture art dresses behind us that we have hand created from scratch, and embroidered into my leaf dress behind me is the verse John 15. And you'll see the leaves, and if you look very closely, these leaves are actually a vine that go across the body. And on the other side, we have a very powerful jaguar navigating its way through the jungle. These dresses are very important to us. They represent everything to do with being connected to the vine, navigating through the wilderness, and remaining strong while going through these challenges. You can see more about this collection on our Lakshmi Bee YouTube channel for all the details on our upcycled couture art dresses. Back to the beginning. You're in a place right now and it does not match the destination where you want to be. How many times have you felt that?
Yeah. Many times.
When was the last time that you felt this?
Today.
Me all day, every day.
I think most of the time we really feel like we are not where we want to be, because we have really big visions of where we want to be in the future and where our purpose is. But right now, it's hard to see that in the situation.
Yeah, and I guess anyone, there's something really big that you're working towards. And sometimes I find the bigger the vision, the bigger the goal, the harder and more tedious the journey seems to be, especially when you walk out. I always call it the path of light. There are different paths to goals and to success, and you've got the path of light and the path of dark. I always talk about these because there are things that I've seen in my life and the people around me, and I guess most people would have experienced this. You see people and it looks like everything's coming so quickly, and it could be by a number of different factors. Maybe they had friends or family who'd paved the path before them, people who have done major compromises to get to where they are. They may have stood on 150,000 people to get to where they are, use people, abuse resources. We've seen it time and time again. And then I always talk about this path of light, where you may have people who have paved the way before you. That has its many reasons. And I just remember thinking about our family, and you always talked about our great Aunt Lucy. And she used to pray so much for the family.
Yeah,
and we always believe and understand and know how powerful prayer is, and the mountains that move, the way it changes atmosphere, it conquers dark thoughts, dark situations. And we've got a lot of, I call them prayer warriors in our family on both sides. And I feel these incredible people have paved the way for us in a way to have a better head start mentally and spiritually, to be able to get to where we are today, become people of prayer ourselves, understanding the power and value of that. When you've started from, say, a more humble beginning and you choose the path of light, you're going to go through a lot of character development. So I find sometimes you go through worse things or harder things or things that take a lot longer to get to where you need to be. And this is a constant sort of process on this journey for myself. What would you say?
I would agree with that. And often, like you're mentioning, we do have prayer warriors in our family. But at the same time, we do have other people who have let everything slide, which has actually put us in like a not so great position as well, which we have to actually fight harder to get ourselves out of that and to raise ourselves back to a better level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it's interesting because when I was born, you and Papa is my father. I was raised to say that. You guys didn't have much when you first met.
No.
So when I grew up in what you would call humble beginnings. But our backstory, when you go back, our families on both sides had a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
as you said, mistakes were made and a lot of that was lost and not passed down. And of course, your parents weren't the eldest in the family. They were often the youngest or at the tail end, so they didn't get as much of that. But even more importantly, what I've observed is knowledge and wisdom wasn't passed down.
I was just going to say that, definitely, especially wisdom, and wisdom that comes from knowing God and being connected to God, which is obviously the source of life, that has been lost. And so all the wisdom that comes from that is gone. And some of them have a lot of knowledge, but obviously knowledge and wisdom isn't the same.
You always see it all the time, people who obtain a lot of wealth and success when they haven't developed their character or gone through certain processes to understand, they don't obtain it and they lose it very quickly. More important than anything, what I've realized on a journey to a better life is developing that grounding, that wisdom, the knowledge, the foundation to be able to hold weight. And success isn't just about finances, it's everything. Abundant relationships, friendships, business networks, better ideas, better products. It's everything.
A real abundant life, isn't it?
Abundant in all areas.
Yeah, in all areas. And sometimes you have to go through harder things to obtain this wisdom, and you have to really persevere, even when times are really difficult. And you may not have much in a financial sense or anything else, but you just have to have that perseverance and the faith.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that you said perseverance, because in terms of helping, considering where we started and where we are today, like to us, we feel like we're nowhere near where we need to be. We're only scratching the surface. But when you look at it logically back from where we started, when I was a baby, we're leaps and bounds ahead of where we were. From that tiny little shared apartment in London to this beautiful house in Australia.
Yes.
It's a massive blessing. And look what we're able to do. Like, we've got this beautiful studio, and, you know, I always like try to count the blessings and be grateful for the progression of the journey, because what if we weren't here? What if we were still stuck back in England?
Exactly. Actually, that's what you have to look at too. Your progression, because although you may not be where you want to be now, you have to actually think back to what you were and recognize how much you have developed and improved. And sometimes we can lose sight of it. I know sometimes you struggle a little bit with that, and you lose sight of how far you've come and how much you have achieved.
Yeah, I do that.
As a person of your age, you've actually achieved a lot. And sometimes I think you forget it.
Yeah.
And you have to think back on that and remember and realize your progress has been very significant.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I know people can get different knowledge and wisdom at different ages, and you should never discount someone based on their age, because everybody is unique. They go through different unique experiences. I remember even a small observation when I went to school in England. The area we lived had a very high crime rate. And I remember we would be walking through different activities at school that taught us about stranger danger and how to hide from a gunman and like a fire and all this stuff at a very intense level. And then when we came to Australia, it was so laid back, and the kids were a lot more innocent. They didn't know as much worldly stuff as the kids I went to school with in England, where we lived. It was like a completely different life.
Remember how they even locked the school? When the kids had gone in, they'd lock it, and if you were late, which we always were, you had to buzz in, and they had to identify who you were before they would allow you in and open the door. Whereas obviously in Australia, it's not like that. It's all open. You can walk in and out as you please.
Very, very blessed here, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, there's good and bad areas everywhere. But when you compare it to what other people go through, we are extremely blessed in this land.
Definitely.
Why I remember that is when you were talking about that, one thing I've learnt, I'm 31 now, is that there are certain lessons that you can only understand with time.
Yes.
And that's something I didn't quite get before. And what I've learned is that when you haven't been on this planet long enough, you haven't lived long enough to see that bad things do pass. Because I remember as a teenager, like I went through a lot of trouble and even the suicidal thoughts, and it just seemed like the pain was never going to end. And I was trying so hard to make a better life, make my dreams come true and all of these things. And I was just on the edge of having a meltdown all the time. And now I've lived a little longer Everything passes,
Well,
even
that's
the worst
right.
things ever.
That's what you learn, like you said, as you get older. You realize these things you go through that seem so terrible and like they go on and on. You do know that it comes to a point where it finishes. And something else will start.
Yeah.
So you've got to like understand that and realize, don't you, that however bad it seems, it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
You have to hang on to that hope.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
That's very important. Hanging on to hope, because I can't speak for anyone else, but from what I can see, the reality is that nothing lasts forever, and life is a collective of seasons of joy, prosperity, hardship, torture.
Yeah.
And they all have their day and their time, and they all serve a purpose in developing your character and allowing you to remember that life can be enjoyable as well, and you don't always have to keep going through stuff.
And just also as a parent, like parents would know, that your children always go through different phases, and sometimes you can be like pulling your hair out and you feel like, oh, you know, this phase they're going through, it's terrible. Are they always going to be like that? But of course not. They grow and develop.
I see kids acting up like that, especially at certain ages.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it. And you did it 5 times.
Yeah, well, I have 5 children, yes.
How annoying.
Lakshmi's the eldest.
Who caused you the most grievance?
Well, you actually caused a lot.
Me?
But I think also because you're the first, she is the first one. And I was very young too when she was born, and obviously I didn't know much about how to raise children. I mean, I'd never been around babies or children, and I really didn't know what I was doing. And I think that's probably why it seemed harder.
So it seemed worse,
yeah.
but it wasn't that
I mean,
bad.
as it went down, I knew more how to deal with children and their
Thank you.
different behaviours and different problems.
They're always so hard on me. Anyone who's the oldest, can you vouch for that?
Well, I'm also the eldest, and
Are
I
they the
have
meanest to you?
experienced that as well. So I do understand.
Another thing I want to talk about on this journey is the importance of our faith. Because I know we live in a time today where it seems, I got to say seems because the internet can be misleading, but it seems like there's a great divide where you've got people who still have faith and believe in something bigger than themselves, and you've got a whole bunch of people who say they believe in absolutely nothing. So I want to know, what is the importance of our faith in the growing process?
Well, it's actually very important. It's probably the most important thing because it's the foundation of everything. Because even when you think about God, if you don't have faith in God, faith means to believe. And if you don't believe in God or you don't believe God, the whole foundation is gone.
Yeah, I think one thing I've definitely realized even on my own journey is I've gone very up and down in my spiritual journey, been through a lot. I've studied different religions, different spiritual beliefs. I've been around all different types of people. Like for some of you that don't know, I have a background in sales at different companies. And in sales, you meet hundreds of people a week, all different backgrounds, all different cultures, all different walks of life, different beliefs. And I've been around people who've operated at the very top of their industry and people who have absolutely struggled. And one thing that I found as a common denominator is the people that believed in something bigger than themselves go further and they seem to last longer. And the people who don't believe in anything bigger than themselves, they may get to a certain point or they'll fall pretty quickly, or they'll get to the point and they'll feel completely empty, completely purposeless. Because I find when you believe in something bigger than yourself, that's where purpose comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that sets the foundation of understanding your purpose, that I'm here for a reason, I've got a job or a mission to do.
Without a vision, the people perish. So without purpose, you will perish inwardly. I mean, not necessarily physically, but inwardly, something will die and you will perish if you don't have that vision and that purpose always in your mind.
Absolutely. That's Bible. The truth. There's been moments on my journey where I've done things like, I don't want to say without God, where I've just sort of been like, I'm just going to do this myself, and I'm not going to, channel or have a connection to God in this moment. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. It never freaking turns out right. And it's like, why did I waste my time doing this? And this really frustrating thing is that when you have developed your own personal relationship with God, is you never really lose it. It's always in the back of your mind. You can always intuitively feel it. I know where there's things I've done out of my own accord, and I've had an intuitive nudge that this might not be the right thing, and I've ignored it anyway. That never goes well. Whereas when I've listened to it, and I know the voice of God is within our heart, it's connected to intuition, our spiritual knowing, which is the pinpoint center of all of us, within us, whether we acknowledge it or not. And we all have this sense of it, that it is there. But the less you tap into it, the weaker the feeling is. The more you tap into it, the stronger that feeling connection is. And when I have listened to it, it has always led me the right way.
Exactly. And you got to trust that too, because sometimes it looks like it may not be the right way, or it looks like it's leading you into a path that you didn't quite think you were going to go on. So you have to be open. You really do have to be open to God's voice and where he is actually leading you, because sometimes it's unexpected.
Yeah.
And you might be led somewhere you didn't even really think about.
So that is true faith, really walking by faith. And it's like you said, like, this is happening to me right now. I always thought I was just going to be a fashion artist and designer and have my own store and just do this business, and like that was it. And yeah, maybe I'd do speaking or something later. But I am walking a path right now that I really didn't expect I'd be walking through right now. I've been recently, the past year, led into the hospitality industry. I fell into it. Don't know how the heck I ended up there.
You didn't have any interest in it before.
And I was mad and sad. And this was after COVID, and I needed something else to support myself. And I have to say, it's been one of the biggest blessings. I've met the most incredible people, all different ages, walks of life, backgrounds, all believing for something better. And just the service industry, it's taught me so much more. It's made me an even better person. It's deepened me as a person. And I really love the food and beverage.
And that is great news for me, because I've always been interested in food and drinks and cooking and cafes and hotels. And it's just always been a really big interest of mine. And I am so happy that you have, gone into this industry and seen a bit more and understand a bit more of why I'm passionate about it as well.
It's amazing. So I remember growing up, you and Papa used to travel a lot. So my earliest childhood memories are hotels and hotel lobbies and restaurants. And I absolutely love all of these places. I said I could live on a plane, I could live in a hotel, and I could chill in the lobby forever. That's my happy place, and eat delicious food. And now I'm working in that industry, and it's crazy. I get to see the hotel lobby like every week, and it's great. But yeah, there you go. Faith journey can lead you into places even greater than where you thought you would be. And I have to say, transitioning from the fashion world into the hotel world, I love the fashion world. It'll always be a part of my life. But this new industry is so crazy and beautiful. It's extremely challenging in different ways, and there is so much amazing stuff there. I'm finding more joy in it in other ways, especially with connecting to people. Like, you meet people from all over the world who've flown in for different purposes. Right now I help manage the events as well, so I get to do all that stuff, and that's really fun. But it's like, if I hadn't trusted this process, I don't know if I would have been in this place.
And even as a parent, it is so wonderful to have a child or children who actually share the same passions as yourself, and that you actually can work together with your children. I mean, it's such a blessing, because I've always been into art and fashion, and that Lakshmi took that path. That has been so great. But like I said, my other passion is like, the cooking and the cafe scene and all that, which obviously you haven't had an interest in before. But you can see how God has led you into that. And I know in the future that we are going to work more together in this side of it as well.
Absolutely.
And it's all encompassing as a part of lifestyle and healthy living and health of body and mind and spirit as well.
Well, it really relates back to, the pain of transition and character development. I've never been a bad person. You guys always raised us to be decent and proper.
Yes.
We weren't perfect,
No,
obviously.
well,
We
no
made a
one
lot of
is.
mistakes. Yes.
Well, we did
But
too as parents, obviously.
I wouldn't have gotten to this place without this character development, because the character development has made me more compassionate, more understanding, and it's made me care more about the world that I live in and the impact I'm having on society in an even bigger way than it was before, because I always cared about sustainability and animal welfare, and I hated slave labor, and I really wanted to make a difference in the fashion industry through our work. And our whole business is now 100% sustainable, which is super exciting. But then going on this path has deepened that to where I'm actually hands-on in the community, being able to make a difference through service.
Yes.
And food and beverage and sleeping, like the hotel, I don't know if this is the right word. It's like the core of human life. Like, this is what we do. This is where we live. This is what sustains us.
It's all
and I've realized the big impact that working in this industry has on the community and the environment, especially after the hell that we went through the past couple of years, pandemic. It's shown me the importance that this industry is and has to offer people. It's a place of rest. And it's a place you can come and escape.
Service as well.
Being able to serve and, be waited on is such a privilege.
And nourish people. Nourish their souls as well as their physical being.
That's right.
And actually, as a parent, you do that for your own children. And I think sometimes when you're not a parent, it's hard to get into that thing about service and the importance of it and nourishing people to grow.
Right. I think if you don't have anyone to be responsible for, it's a hard lesson to understand and learn. And I've noticed it in people that when you work in a service industry, or like you said, when you are a parent, it puts you into this different mindset of really caring, really understanding, really getting to know someone at a soul level and what do they need? How can you help this person?
Exactly.
On the self-transformation journey into getting closer or diving into the life of your dreams, self-transformation. So we're talking about transformation and the process of transitioning and becoming the kind of person who can receive the big blessing. One thing that I've definitely noticed in my life, again, it's something else that you learn as you live longer on the planet. In the short time I've been here, I'm only just starting to really understand this. There's a difference between knowing and understanding. You can know something, but when you understand something, it's hitting you at a cellular internal level. And that's something I'm starting to experience now as I've just entered my 30s. And that is, sometimes you can be in the environment where you've always wanted to be, but you are uncomfortable there and you can't stay there, or you haven't developed the skills or the foundation to be able to live in that space. I could say, I want to own a hotel and I want to have the biggest sustainable fashion company in the world. Okay, that's great. But what weight is there to be able to support that, to be able to facilitate that? Are you good with people? Do you understand the industry? Do you have an understanding of business, the world, economics, what's going on? There is a whole bunch of things there. Do you have the character to be able to manage people? Business is all about people. Customer service, products, you have to understand human beings, and this is something that takes time. When I look back at all the things I've been through, there are things I had to do that I hated, I didn't want to do, like working in sales. I would never dream of working in sales. I was kind of pushed into it in a weird way, encouraged into it, pushed into it. My dad is a sales master and he's worked in real estate most of his life. So I grew up in the real estate industry. No, I actually liked it. I loved my favorite thing was meeting the people, and I loved the beautiful homes.
Yes, that was good.
The coolest part was the people that we got to meet and service. Like that was just incredible. But I never really liked this idea of sales and being in that industry with these like hawk, like wolf, like crazy people attracted to that world for whatever reason. And I just never liked it. It wasn't me. It's not my style. No. I don't believe in forcing anything on anybody. It makes no sense. Like, just get the right customers who actually want the product and stop trying to convince everyone that they need the freaking product when they don't need it, just so you can make $1.
Exactly.
Stop it. Just stop. But I had an incredible teacher. My dad, he always operated from this place of passion and humility. So I feel very lucky that I had that sales experience. But then after he traveled for work and I went on my own path, I worked at other sales offices where I didn't have that luxury. And I had to really learn how to step into everything I'd been taught from that point, how to manage tough situations, people, character development. The amount of stuff I went through was insane. Tears, so many nights of wanting to give up, all hours working, sleepless nights, skill development, learning new knowledge, new things I'd never known before. And all of this happened through operating in these spaces that I wouldn't have chosen for myself. Fast forward to today as an adult, I am so grateful for these experiences, even though some of them were awful, because they've really developed things in me in terms of discernment, reading people, understanding emotions and feelings, and what people want and need in certain moments and situations, how to de-escalate situations that are getting out of control, how to remain calm in chaos, how to inspire and fill a room with passion when it's looking a little dull, or encouraging your team members when they're having a bad day, and even understanding body language. Somebody is looking down and how to speak to them and motivate them. It's been a huge freaking process and learning journey, but it has gotten me to this place today where I have now been put in charge of teams. And I know exactly how to navigate that space, whereas rewind a few years ago, I wouldn't have known what I was doing. Yeah. I wouldn't have been able to help my team to be the best we can be. The team that I'm able to manage now, the amount of good reviews we get and how incredible this team is, it's so inspiring and it's so encouraging to be a part of that. And to know that I'm also helping facilitate to bring out the best in people. And to have clients leave your events and say, this was so good, thank you so much. It just doesn't get any better than that. Knowing that you have a happy, healthy team and you've got happy, healthy clients who are going to come back.
Well, I just want to say, all you said, like, it actually applies to being a parent. Because all you've learned through those experiences, I've actually learned being a parent of 5. I think actually probably if you have a lot of children, you have to learn all those skills that you just mentioned. So I'd just actually like to encourage people who are mothers, because sometimes it is overlooked. It can be, isn't it? And looked at as probably not, you're not a very important person, or what you're doing doesn't really have that much significance, perhaps, but in actual fact it does. And you have to learn all these skills about, developing people, encouraging them, absolutely, nourishing them, building them up to be the best that they can be.
And every single human has come from a mother. You are literally shaping the humans walking around everywhere. I have to credit you guys, because I know I'm like this because of you guys.
And it actually, obviously, it's very rewarding when a parent sees the development of their children into really great people and following their purpose and their path that they are supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to put it out there, like, we're not talking about perfection here.
No.
The amount of fights that we've had and arguments, stop you, I'm never talking to you again. This is not perfect.
No.
But I have to say, you gave it your all and you tried your best. And I know that the intention is the most important thing, because that you and Papa's intention for us was to be happy, to do well in life, and to be good people.
Exactly.
And those are three things I can say that I feel have been achieved. Your intention was good. Maybe, the ways that things went about weren't the best or not perfect.
We weren't perfect in any sense. We were
But
very
is anybody though? I don't
No.
think anybody is.
And obviously when we started out with you, we knew absolutely nothing about raising a child.
I know. And there's honestly times I've hated them, but I know that they've done their best with what they knew at the time.
Yeah. And obviously you learn as you go too, and how to be a better parent as well. And I feel in a way I have been a better parent to some of the younger children.
Yes. I was the test dummy.
Well, which is amazing to see how well you've turned out.
Look at the test dummy now.
You've come out really well.
Have I?
Definitely.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I mean, obviously we have our differences.
I feel like the other kids have more calm in their spirit than I do. I feel like mine's like traumatized.
But it's actually, like you said, given you so much of a good foundation and how to relate to anybody, because I know you can relate to anyone.
Yes.
And not everyone can do that. It's actually a gift and a skill as well.
Yeah, well, one thing about you guys is you taught us, well, me, I've never been that judgmental type in that way. I don't care who you are. You can be like a cyclops or half alien or anybody from anywhere or any planet, and I'll talk to you.
And any walk of life, really, and any type of person.
I just love talking to people.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about everyone and want to know your story, where you're from. Tell me. It's amazing. It's just so fascinating to learn about people and what's made them who they are and what they've been through, because every single being that you look at has a unique story.
Yes.
Nobody's boring.
Yeah. No.
You need to get to know people and you'll find out the most insane things about them.
And also sometimes someone you think you don't like.
Yeah.
You actually, if you get to know them, you actually find you've got so much in common, you actually really like them.
That's another thing on this transformation journey that I've learned, is how to get along with people that I don't particularly like. Because when I say don't particularly like, I like literally like 99% of people, like whatever. But there is always that one or two people who cause absolute mayhem. They're very unself-aware and just super rude or mean or whatever. And they're causing, and I'm not talking about just personally, they're causing a lot of trouble in the area they're in. For example, with staff, all the staff might not like a particular person because of how they are, how they're acting. I have had many opportunities where I've had to practice getting to know these kinds of people, especially in the business world and the corporate world. We've all met them. We all know them, at least one of them somewhere. And I've really had to dig deep despite all the craziness and find out, why is this person the way they are? And I'm not saying you can do this with everyone. There are some very evil people you should probably just stay away from. But behind every broken person is a broken story. Something happened to them somewhere that caused them to be this way. And I'm just thinking of someone right now who we were left alone at events together and we just had to talk to each other.
I was actually going to say that. This is a way in which God works too. Because there have been many times in my life where at whatever I'm at, I have to pair up with somebody or something like that.
Yeah.
And I always get the person put with me that one I think I don't like or I can't get along with.
Yeah.
And then I have to talk to them. And at the end of it, usually I really like the person.
You find things to
Yeah,
like.
you can.
It's funny you say that, because there's somebody who's causing a lot of havoc in one of the workplaces that I've been working at. Over getting to know them, I really learnt so much about them, and they've come from a very rocky past. they've been through some very rocky personal relationships in their life, and it's actually quite heartbreaking. It doesn't excuse the behavior, but I have to say it's just given me a bit more compassion for them and why they are the way they are.
Yeah.
And even though it's an absolute horror story to be in the presence of them at times, I found the more understanding and compassionate I've been able to be towards them, they've actually softened. It actually softens them because they don't get a lot of love because of how they act. But when you can find it in your heart somewhere to have love and compassion, you don't have to be buddy and like be next to them or something like that. But it brings their guards down a little bit and they become a better person. I have to say, I've seen people really transform when I've been able to be open and loving towards them, even when it wasn't easy.
If you're just like kind towards them, you treat them in a, a friendly and open way.
I'm always that person. I don't know if this is annoying to anybody, but I mean, at home, if you're my brother or my sister, I'll yell at you, it's going to happen. But outside, like, I'm always going to be that person. Hi, how are you today? You can hate me as much as you like, and I'm going to keep smiling and keep asking you how you are until you get sick of me and finally break it down and actually start talking to me. So I'm sorry, not sorry. So how important is it to watch what you fill your life with? Because I know in today's times, it's so easy to scroll through the phone on social media, look at all the garbage videos, and, there's really good stuff, and there's also really crappy stuff as well. And I find even looking at too much of the good stuff, I found it has jaded my own mind from doing my own thoughts for my own individual dream. It's been a massive distraction. So how important is it to watch what you're filling your life with?
Yeah, exactly. Because like you said, it also becomes addictive. Like you said, even looking at the good stuff, you can become addicted to looking at, and it actually takes up so much time. You don't even realize how much time has passed.
It's scary.
And you haven't done anything you're supposed to do. I mean, obviously it's great to see what other people are doing, but at the same time, you can't let that take away from what you have to do personally as well.
That's right. So I find, like, especially when you're on a journey of transition and transformation, it is absolutely crucial to be careful what you're filling your life with. Be careful what you're listening to and what you're watching and who you're spending time with and where you're spending time. I can't even begin to explain the process I've gone through of first cutting out the wrong people from my life, even people that I actually like who are friends, but they're quite a negative influence. I call it soft negative influence because they're kind people, but the process or where they are in life is actually hurting me and my growth as a person. And it can affect you at a subconscious level, which is even worse. Limiting things I'm looking at. Like, there's been times I've just had to lock my phone away and literally put it away from me in another room under a book where I won't go get it. Because the weirdness of scrolling, it's like riding a bike. You can't stop pedaling for some reason. It's like pedal with my thumbs.
Well, I don't even like looking at social media, but when I start, I find it really hard to stop.
It's weird because sometimes you're looking at stuff and it takes you into a dreamlike state where you don't realize what you're doing. But when you get sharp and focused, you're like, what the heck am I even looking? Why am I looking at this? I would never look at this in real life. I would not care.
No. Well, actually, that was like an advantage of, like, if you're older and obviously you grew up in, say, the 80s, which I did. 80s. And you didn't have all this technology. You didn't have all these extra distractions. I wasn't aware what other people were doing, like even in my own field, in art and fashion, stuff like that. I didn't know. So it was purely creative from my own mind and whatever I felt to do without being influenced by so much other stuff.
This is really good because I have seen so many young designers and I know that they've pulled bits and pieces from so many other designers. Yes. And I think one of the things that is just really not good is I know they're very creative and they're capable of coming up with something that we've never seen before. I have literally seen young designers mimic the top designers and their
Exactly.
collections.
Exactly.
I don't want to see this collection again. Show me what you can do.
It's like you see the same thing
Over and
repeated
over.
and over. There
And
is
it's so
nothing
boring.
original there.
Part of being a creative is bringing something original.
And something, that's people haven't really seen before.
Something from your dreamlike mind and making it a reality is a truly magical thing. And there is nothing more incredible, more beautiful in the creative world than seeing someone who's done that. And I've noticed that some of the greatest art that I've seen is by people, and you always hear they like were in the mountains somewhere where there was no distractions, or they're in this garden, like that lady art gallery we went to a few months ago. We were at Grandma's house.
Oh, yes.
And she literally lived in this cottage in the middle of this forest. And her artwork was the most beautiful artwork in that whole gallery. And she lived in this place alone on purpose. And only looked at nature, and her colors and the way that she draws actually remind me a bit of your work. I do that as well.
The inspiration is mostly from nature, which obviously is God's creation.
It's the purest form of creativity we have on this earth, honestly.
And I think to get the best inspiration, it is from nature.
Yeah.
It's not from anything man-made.
I notice, man-made things can be beautiful as well, but there's always something compromised in the design. If you have a designer's eye and you operate from a space of light, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. In certain artwork, there's always a darkness or a somberness, a dullness, and it brings the spirit down a little when you look at it. Whereas when you look at artwork created by someone operating from a place of light, art, it should inspire you and uplift you to a higher state of being, not the other way round.
And so much of it these days particularly, it puts you into that depressive...
Makes you feel like crap.
Yeah, and you do not want that. There is too much in this world that is ugly.
And I understand if you're going through a hard time, you might want to pour your bleeding heart out and create something.
Fine.
But I've even noticed people who do that, even their work is more inspiring. What I'm talking about, it's hard to explain. I've produced imagery, paintings that are from the dark part of my soul, but they instilled a passion in people.
Exactly. Spiritual connection.
Exactly. Because even when I was going through that hard time and I wanted to pour that out on the canvas, I've always been connected to God, to a light source. And a lot of that was like pain of the journey, but there was always this like passion of, I'm going to like get there eventually. I'm going to overcome the mountain.
Isn't it?
Yes, the element of hope. That's a good way to put it.
It's like they could feel the passion and the power and the spiritual connection in it, because it uplifts them. Like everyone goes through these dark times and they can relate to seeing that a person who's going through that, but at the same time they see and feel that element of hope, that although you're going through this, there is that light at the end of the tunnel. You are going to get out of that state.
I want to talk about character transformation and why this is so important. Because like I said, you can be in the right place, but you can be the wrong person for that environment. Or you can be the right person in the wrong environment. Why is character development in a transition journey so important? And the pain that comes with, why we should withstand and keep going through it.
Like a diamond in the rough, it has to be cut and polished to bring out its true beauty. You have to go through all these processes to develop your character and your sense of purpose to make it more strong and more focused.
These are vivid memories for me now, but I remember when I was 17 or 16, I think it was, second last year of high school, and I got my first break into the fashion industry. Literally went from a place of nothing and obscurity all the way into these environments where there was celebrities, there were political people there, people in positions of power. This is the first time I'd ever been in this arena, in this world. And I remember feeling, I don't want to say frightened, I was just so like someone smacked me in the face, like a fish out of water. And I'm usually really good at, talking to anyone. I've always been like that. But for some reason in this particular space, I didn't know what to say. I didn't carry the conversations very well. and I made a lot of mistakes and I didn't utilize all the opportunities that I had. And when I look back now, I can see how important character development was. It wasn't that the environment was just too overwhelming and outstanding, because people are people at the end of the day. I needed to work on myself more. I was in an environment where I was around people who were operating at the top of their industry, and I wasn't yet at that time, barely had been through anything. So I felt I didn't really have a lot of value to add to the conversations or to the room, even though everyone has a story and anyone can add value at any age, but nowhere near as much as I would fast forward another decade down the track.
Exactly.
Whereas now when I walk into rooms like that, I can hold myself. I know who I am. I've got a better sense of it. Hold my ground and carry a great conversation and connect to anybody a lot more than I could have had I been given everything back then.
To be a person of integrity and quality and depth and even just humbleness and kindness.
Yeah.
If you'd got everything at that age, you wouldn't be the person you are now. You could be someone very different and someone who really isn't as nice of a person as what you are.
I know not everybody's like this, but sometimes if you just get everything too quickly and you haven't been through enough, you lose it. Or you frustrate people, or you give out really bad examples to other young people about how to live and what to do. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen this, especially in the events and entertainment industry. When I used to work that circuit, there are people who I once called friends. The fame and all of the stuff that came with it altered them. They've got millions of followers or hundreds of thousands, and they've been on reality shows and all these different spaces. And they didn't go through enough of the character development. Yes, you know, they've got some value and things to share, but it is not at the level that it could have been. And I can see them misleading people. And the worst bit is, because I knew these people and I saw the way they built their platforms, they didn't go through the natural processes. They wanted to fast track the journey, which I understand in today's world and the pressures of having to fast track, build your following fast. Like, these people were buying fake followers, and I'm talking thousands and thousands of them, cutting corners, busting their way into places, boisterously walking over people. I understand, like, I respect the hustle, but not at the expense of hurting people.
And not expense of your own integrity.
Yes.
We have seen the integrity go, and that is bad.
No one's perfect, but when you're in a position of that much influence, you have to be so careful and be so responsible about what you're putting out there and what you're telling people. And I've seen these people just feeding their followers lies. It's really sad to see this happen when we all had an opportunity to build something proper from the ground up. I'm not sitting here like I'm so perfect, but one thing I did, it was one of the hardest decisions. I ended up ditching all my platforms and everything that I'd built. Around COVID, I cut ties, networks off, and I just said I'm going to start again. Why this character development is so freaking important.
Definitely.
Because I have had weak moments where I've looked back and thought, damn it, like, look at where everyone is now. And I took the back road instead, and I decided not to do it this way and not compromise my values and say no to these things. Been in such dark moments where I feel like I'm struggling and I feel like, I'm never moving ahead and no one knows who I am, and I've destroyed my business in a way. Now I'm starting again. How stupid. Why did I do this? But then when I remove myself from it, from a bird's eye point of view, and I watch, this was one of the greatest things I could have ever done. And I'm telling you, it is harder walking the road of integrity. It takes longer to get to where you need to be. But I can tell you, you will be filled with so much more peace and have a life that's full of so much more value, because when I see the lives of the other people who took the compromised road, I would never trade it for the world, because I know the life that they're living is so fake. They are so unhappy and unfulfilled.
Yes, it is not fulfilling.
I know it's taken a lot longer for me, and I've been through some stuff, But what is being built in my life right now
exactly.
is so incredibly valuable. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's what you call building on a firm foundation.
Building your house on a
On
rock.
a rock.
And
Exactly.
not the sand.
Yeah, because sand, it can get washed away very easily. You might have it all now. You might look like everything's amazing. One day it could just go.
Exactly.
Whereas if you build it on the firm foundation, it takes time, but it is very strong.
This wisdom that comes with living on the planet longer, there's still so much for me to learn. But you, 56, and you've always taken the path of light for as long as I've known you. And I know you could have easily, you know, become a famous artist by now if you
Well, I have had opportunities
gone the other
too,
way.
but they are not right.
But it wasn't the right opportunities. And I know you said no to a lot of things. I feel it's very important for me to share this because I meet a lot of young people, even people in general of different ages, who get very discouraged by some of these so-called famous people on social media, and they get discouraged because they think I could never look like that or be like that or whatever. And when you work in the industry, you realize that it's all smoke and mirrors, honestly, like at the end of the day. And yes, there are beautiful people there who have worked really hard and they're just using the platform to actually show people what they do. But there is a massive group of people on this platform that are just BSing everybody. I mean, I don't know how else to say that any better.
Don't have any substance.
It's literally something that's been birthed out of insecurity.
Yeah.
And like what we were talking before, when you get to know people who are very hard to get to know and they're not the kindest people in the world. Yeah. A few of these people I met, and I talked to a psychologist about this as well, and we were talking about human behavior, and especially in the entertainment industry. Unfortunately, this industry attracts a lot of narcissistic types, and these are extreme narcissistic personalities that feed off the energy of the attention that they're getting, and they do more outrageous, more crazy things to absorb the energy because they've got nothing else going on at home. And there's a lot of brokenness there, broken family backgrounds, messed up marriages. It's a lot. It's really sad. I want to bring this to attention because what you see is not always what you're really getting, and you have to remember that. And this applies to your own journey. You might be doing something right now and you're wondering, no one can see me. This isn't even blowing up. I don't understand what's happening. You cannot care. You have to be in the long game. Not care, focus on your own process and put in the work and be there for purpose, not for attention or just wanting to be seen everywhere.
Empty fame.
Because what's going to bring the most value and fulfillment is building a life of substance. Of purpose. It will bring you more peace, more joy, better people than any of the other stuff ever could. And I can attest to this because I did have this type of lifestyle before, and it was hell. Absolute flipping hell. I was miserable. I wasn't happy. I had severe anxiety, massive bucket loads of depression, and it got so bad I had to crash a couple of years ago and ended up seeing a psychologist just to help me heal from all the trauma that I'd been through being around this narcissistic world. And, you know, of course, not everyone's like this. I met some really great people in this space, but unfortunately, the path that I'd taken, especially the industries that we were connected to, they could launch you to massive fame overnight, but it came at a cost, at a price. Usually of your integrity. You had to compromise something, your values. You could be dragged through the mud because they want to make you look how they want to look, not how you want to look. So you end up becoming a product of someone else's monster. I removed myself away from all of this toxicity and I changed my number. That just reminded me of a movie. I don't know where this is from. She's like, change your number, change your friends. They're all bums. I think that's a TV show. But yeah, do that. And this is part of the transformation journey to that great life, the beautiful life you had imagined. And like we said at the start of this podcast, it's a full life of abundance in all areas, not just one, all areas. And how do you get that?
You leave a legacy after you're gone, because so many people who are like really well known right now, what have they actually built? Once they're gone, it's all gone.
It goes with them.
You
That's
need
the
to
problem.
build a legacy that carries on after you are gone.
That's the problem with this tech social media generation, is that so many businesses are purely just built online. And I always think if someone pressed delete, what's left?
Exactly.
What have you physically built in this physical reality that we live in that's going to outlast you when you leave the planet? Like, what have you left behind? Okay. That brings us to the ultimate life cleansing. Life cleansing on the journey to transforming and transitioning into the life of your dreams is so important. Life cleansing is like what we talked about, getting rid of the toxic people, the toxic environments, the toxic workspaces. I have to tell you, one of the biggest tests of my life was being in an arena where you're surrounded by photographers, you've got platforms, you've got VIP buffets, food, car service, all of these luxurious and lovely things, to working as a waitress in a hotel. That was one of the biggest punches in the face that I've felt in my recent life. And this is what I went through. I said goodbye to my old life, getting rid of the old life, and I had to start at the bottom of a new industry. And it was bloody hard. It was so freaking hard. And there's nothing wrong with waitressing. It's such a privilege to be served. For someone to serve you, you must be extremely grateful. But what I'm trying to say is that for someone pursuing a life of purpose, of meaning, of peace, of joy, I left an industry that I had worked on and built for 7 years. It was about 7 years of networking, hard work, financial investment, time, energy, resources, all of that I threw away because I saw it was leading to absolute nothingness. And I knew in my heart that God had something better for my life. And yes, that will always be a part of my life in terms of the clothing and putting out a positive message. But this new life that I am now in is a product of saying goodbye to the old. And I want you to know that this journey is not easy. No. And even though I had to start at the bottom and I worked as a waitress first, to now I'm actually managing events and teams within, what was that, like 6 months?
Yeah.
I just want to encourage anyone out there that it's never too late to pursue true meaning and true purpose in your life. And it may be hard at the start, letting go. But if you've put the work in and you've worked on yourself, you are going to do well and new opportunities will reveal themselves. As I sit in this chair right now, after all the hell that's happened, I feel so much better. I feel more fulfilled. I feel happier. I'm not happy all the time. I'm still going through things and healing from the past, but I really feel good about where my path is taking me now compared to before. The emptiness, the nothingness, the red carpets don't mean crap if you haven't got anything deep going on in your life, anything of substance, anything of value. Exactly. Whereas the work I do now is so much more fulfilling. I'm actually helping people on a human physical level rather than just posing around and saying a few words. And I know people tell me don't be hard on yourself, because I really tried to make the most out of those situations. I tried to promote sustainability and share the mission and vision for a better world, and it's an incredible platform to do that. But I just felt miserable because I felt I wasn't doing enough. I needed to be more hands-on and do work that had more substance. And moving into hospitality and hotels has been able to give me that. And I know it's not for everyone. And look, everyone is meant to make a mark you know, in whatever industry they're in. There were great people there who were doing that, but can I be honest? There wasn't many.
Yeah.
Let's just be really honest. I've never seen fakeness at this level in my life. And I've seen some fake stuff. But this industry, it attracts certain, like I said, and my psychologist said, narcissistic personality types who are feeding from the attention that they're getting. And the shallowness, the lack of substance, it makes me, I'm sorry, this is a bit graphic. I want to puke how disgusting it was. If you live and work in this environment and you want nothing to do with it, it weighs heavy on your soul. Yeah. And the trauma that caused me on a cellular, physical, mental, spiritual level, it's taken me a long time to heal from that crap. It's taken a long time. If you're doing something and it's going really well and you are getting attention for it, that's fantastic. And if you're not, don't even worry about that. It doesn't matter. As long as you're living a life of value and substance, go through those hard times. Make the tough decisions. Leave the things that aren't working, because it will massively benefit you later, and you'll have a bigger impact, a more positive impact on people and this planet in the long run. And it's all about the long game, not the short game. Why are you laughing at me? I want to come back to another point, is recognizing what's not serving you. So for you, what are some things that you feel like you had to make big sacrifices?
I could say about being a parent, because when I got married, I was quite young, and I went into parenthood very quickly, a lot quicker than I would have actually wanted to or thought about. Being an artist myself, I had a lot of big dreams to do my artwork, fashion and all that. But I was made a parent at quite a young age. I ended up having 5 children. And so I was a full-time mother for 30 years. So all of that, like, it wasn't exactly my choice at the time when it happened, but I had to go through that, and it actually became probably the most rewarding thing that I have done. But in saying that also, I haven't lost those dreams I had, which I do believe is a part of my purpose here on this planet. And I believe that raising the children was so important, because now, as I said, I can work with my children, and that Lakshmi and other members of the family have similar interests or, you know, purpose to what I have as well. And we are so much stronger now working as a team. So if you are a parent and you haven't exactly chosen it, and you feel like, oh, that's the end of my life, my dreams, everything, that is not true. You do the best you can to be a parent, and you remember it is never too late, and you can still achieve that purpose that you're put here for. And in actual fact, you'll end up with a stronger foundation, because you've built your family, and your family become a part of that purpose, and you all work towards it together.
Wow. That's huge. And I know a lot of people out there will be able to relate to that. And I really admire what you've done, and that you stayed true to your calling. You knew intuitively that you needed to be a parent first, which is a massive sacrifice. Yeah. And for me, I knew that I was meant to do a career first, and not in a crazy way like you see out there. Like, career and no, family is extremely important to me. And I have to say, the blessing of being able to work with your family has taken a big load off my shoulders, that I do have space in my life to meet the right person and create my own family to be a part of this. Exactly. Which is really beautiful. Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, also am I, actually.
You already found your person though.
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to you finding yours.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant.
I live a very private life.
Whoever it is has to pass the family test.
Yeah.
And they have to get along with the brothers, and they are tough, I'll tell you that.
Do you feel like they've scared half the people away?
I think they have. And there's probably a good reason.
I don't mind that. They're a good filter.
Yeah, they are actually.
Prove yourself.
Yeah, or else.
Get out. To add on to that, leaving the wrong things and the wrong people behind, one thing that I've also found on this journey is that the wrong people will also choose to leave your life as well. Not all of them. Some you need to cut yourself because they keep leeching from you what they can get. But there are some that will walk away from you. And you hear this a lot when people are on a transformational journey, is that they often feel a lot of loneliness. There's nobody that can relate to them on this journey. And I've definitely been through those seasons where there is a temptation to go back to what you have left behind, because as you're becoming a new person for your new environment, you're in this a bit of a weird limbo land type place where you're not the same person to fit into the old place, and you're not yet the new person to walk into the new place. The big life exodus. So when the transformation process can leave you feeling lonely, have you had experiences where the wrong people have left, as well as you having to leave old environments behind?
It has happened. People who I thought were my friends and then later kind of realized they weren't really. But at the same time, because they have been friends for a long time, it is hard to let go of them. Just thinking about when I first got married, I had lived in London with my husband, and then we returned to Australia. And I met up again with the friends I had in college who I thought were very good friends, but from the way they behaved, it was kind of apparent that they didn't really care about me at all. My husband picked it up. Like he said, they're not very good friends, but I was a bit hesitant because they'd always been my friends.
Were these the friends that you left behind in Australia?
Yes.
So you had transitioned, taken a big leap of faith and moved to London by yourself.
Exactly.
Where you met Papa.
Yeah, that's right. And then obviously I got married. You know, you were born, and when we came back, we had you with us. Maybe it was hard for them to relate to me anyway. I still found like they were kind of just treating me the way it always was. And actually, when you think about that family as well, because you grow up with your family and they see you as one way, a certain way. And then as you grow and change and develop and get more clear on your vision and your purpose in life, they can't relate to it anymore. And they keep treating you in the same way as the same person that you used to be. It's very frustrating.
I can definitely relate to that one.
Related to that.
From my own experience, even with my siblings, they were used to me being the leader, and I was known to be a bit bossy. Saw me in a bit of a tyrannical point of view, I would say. Whereas obviously as time has passed and I've grown into the person that I am now, really learnt more about compassion and understanding people, and learnt to be more patient, which is something that I wasn't before.
No, definitely not.
And I think people who know me now would be shocked if they'd known me years ago. Because I definitely have formed into a new person. It's sad because the relationship with my siblings has been hard. They can be a little closed off towards me instead of relating to me as a friend. They just see me as that older sister that tells them what to do all the time. And it's taken years for them as they grow up. They've started to see that I am different and you can relate to me now as a friend. And I'm not going to boss you around. I'm going to give you some advice, but I won't tell you what to do. You can take it or leave it. Yeah, that's been interesting. And I felt for a season I had to be away from everybody. I'd moved out and was doing my own thing. There are seasons where, you need to take a break away even from family just to be able to grow into yourself, because they, as you said, keep viewing you the way that you were, and it kind of stifles you from making that transition, the transformation into the new person you want to be.
And it can be hard to relate to them, and it makes it hard to maintain like even good relationships when people are like that as well, even if they are family. And obviously you want a good relationship with your family.
Adding on to that is the opposite of that. is you must realize that the people around you are on their own journey, evolving, changing, and you have to accept them as the new person they're becoming and get to know the new person they're becoming.
Exactly.
I feel I've definitely been doing this with one of my siblings, a couple of them. When I look at them, I am now taking a step back and letting them be who they are. As I'm observing them, I am learning about the new person that they are, picking up the new topics they're talking about and adding value where I can to what they're talking about now. And that has opened up incredible relationships.
Well, that's also what I want to say about being a parent. You have to allow your children to develop as people and accept that and relate to them as they're growing, as they become adults particularly. They're not like the little baby boy or girl anymore.
Some people.
You got to recognize that, and that they're also on their own journey of transformation.
Exactly.
And you have to let them do that.
I have to say, out of all the parental adult figures in my life, you have done this the best out of all of them.
That's nice. But I think the reason I have is, like I said, with my own parents, I've found the difficulty in that they didn't really allow me to be myself exactly.
Yeah, we know.
So I think because I have had that experience, I've tried with my own children to allow them to develop into the people they're supposed to be and to relate to them on that level. And as they become adults, they actually are more like friends than children, which is right when you think about it, because the children, they're all spirits. We're all a spirit put here in a body, and we don't have control over these people. They're given to our care to raise them while they are children, but it's not to control them or make them into something or see them as something the way that we think it should be.
Perfectly said. Coming from a parent, even better. So you're going through a life exodus. Like, this is part of the process, bit of loneliness, people leaving, you leaving as well. It brings me to what I call the gardener. In life, when you're in this transition moment, you're not really left alone entirely. There'll always be some kind of teacher or a guide or a mentor or a friend or a family member or somebody, even if it's only one person who can help you or assist you in that time. For me, has been you. And in other seasons, I've had like a pastor or someone or even a friend or somebody who was always there. And I would say sometimes your gardener is someone that you have overlooked because they're usually the kindest person in your life. You may have overlooked them because they're not the loudest voice in your life. Found that, for me personally, and in times where you feel like you have absolutely no one, I've had 1 or 2 days where I felt like there was nobody or you couldn't be there or I was somewhere else. That would be God.
Yeah.
I would go in my car somewhere by myself and I'd just start building my relationship with God more, or talking to God and unloading all of my pain to God, which is why it's so important, again, for many reasons, to believe in something bigger than yourself, because in this life, we're not perfect. Things are always going to go up and down. And I find if you believe in something bigger than yourself and you offload all this garbage onto the higher being, God, who can take it, it allows you to walk in the light and be lighter so that you can focus on the important things in your life now. Even the story of Christ, when Christ died on the cross and took away the pain and suffering of the world in a spiritual sense. Because this act is a gift, and it's also a choice whether we accept the gift or not, which is the part a lot of people are missing, is that, yes, he did this thing for you, but it is a choice for you to live it or not. So you can still live in the old way and live in the garbage and the crap and all of that within yourself. But if you choose grace and accept the gift, because God is not tyrannical, he's not going to force you to do anything. Everything, he has given us a choice on this earth, which I feel is why there is good and evil, because this is an earth of choices where we discover which path we want to take and what experiences we're going to have and how we navigate through those certain experiences. And if we're born into crap, choosing certain things to get us out of the crap. Or if we're in the good, how can we help others with love and bring them out of the crap? There are so many things we could go into there. But it brings me back to this place of the gardener and how important that is in your life. And if you need something else, we are so blessed. Positive podcasts or finding a local church, scouting and finding a good pastor who can help you and pour love into your life and assist you with wisdom and knowledge, because the wisdom and knowledge sets you free. It unlocks a lot of the garbage in your mind and helps you think more clearly. Or the psychologist. And if you can't afford that, there are counselors that give free services. And you're going to find good and bad people everywhere. I've met some terrible people in positions of mentorship. You need to be aware and know that people aren't perfect. Go and keep searching until you find the right person. I don't know whether you believe in God or not. One of my friends said this to me and it was really helpful. He said, if you don't know who your gardener is, ask God to reveal who your gardener is. It would come to me in dreams. And I didn't really know who mine was in this season because there are different people in different seasons. And then I had a dream about you that we were doing this podcast. My mom's my gardener in this season. Okay, that's great. But what I can say, if you don't usually experience visions or dreams in your everyday life, is you have to be open to it. If you're open to it, it will come. I didn't really see many messages in dreams. And as I practiced being open to it, and I had faith and believed God's going to speak to me through a dream tonight, then I started getting powerful dreams that meant things with messages. And when I woke up, I would remember them in every single detail. And this didn't happen to me before. Sometimes I would get something, sometimes I wouldn't. Whereas since I've been focused on it and more open to it, I get a lot more of these markers and pinpointers in my life. So now that we've gone through all of that, we want to talk about the importance of staying the process and not giving up. Biggest lesson for me as a person of the early 30s is realizing that when you're young and you haven't lived on the earth for a long time yet, that it is easy to give up because you haven't been through enough stuff to get over it. And problems can seem like the worst things in the world. If you're going through a tough situation, just to remember it's not going to last forever. It will change and you will start experiencing some of the incredible dreams that you've had in your heart. And I've seen this in my own life in the short time I've been here. I have seen childhood dreams come true and it's been absolutely phenomenal. And all the pain has been worth it. I want to go into some practical things, reaching into your toolbox. Some of the things that have helped assist me in my transformational journey, I like to tap into positive leader books. People, great leaders of society in history and in today's times, to read their biographies, because when you read or listen to someone else who is further in the journey than you, who've overcome a lot of things and progress, it is extremely encouraging. When you look at their struggles, a lot of the things they went through are things that you're probably going through. And you can see that this person has overcome those things and you know that you will too. And they also give you the tools and strategies to overcome some of those challenges. The first mentor I can remember that I had in my life besides the family or people we knew was Tony Robbins. My dad had his CDs and tapes and all those things and he always listened to them in the car. And I was always listening to them. And I got my first Tony Robbins CD set. I think I was 12 years old. And I used to listen to it walking to the bus to school every morning. I used to listen to all the tapes. And I feel it gave me a massively strong foundation and expanded my mind to bigger things at such a young age. And I definitely accredit that to a lot of how I am today and the journey I've gone on. And that's just one. And there's so many incredible leaders out there I look up to. Someone that I'm tapping into a lot these days would be Stephen Furtick from Elevation Church. I love his messages. They're very relatable to today's time, especially to young adults. He helps teach you through wisdom how to overcome some of those challenges through a faith-based lifestyle. And then, of course, the great podcasts out there, like I love the Jay Shetty podcast, Lewis Howes podcast, and they interview some incredible thought leaders who have really inspired me on my journey as well. These are some of the tools I tap into. And then, of course, we come down to mental wellness, spiritual wellness. I practice prayer and meditation as much as I can, which really grounds me and quiets my crazy thoughts, helps me be clear. And being artists and creatives, that really helps ground me when I'm feeling stressed. The last thing I'll usually do in a day is a creative project. So after all my work is done, I'll come home and I'll do some sewing or designing. Creative outlets have been really helpful for me. I know you're really big on the health and wellness, and I know how much that's helped me mentally.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you have health conditions, which I do have, but I won't go into it now, but it's so important, and not just, like you said, from a physical point of view, from a mental point of view. If you eat like food that actually nourishes your body and restores your mind so you can think clearly, you don't feel exhausted, you have the energy to do things. It's just so important. And like obviously these days, like there's so much processed food. And I think that is a real big killer of health. Like obviously I'm vegan, so I don't eat any animal products, but I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm saying the thing you have to avoid probably the most is too much processed food and junk food.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely dive into another
Yeah,
podcast
this is something,
episode.
it's a whole nother topic here.
That is a whole nother episode right there. But just taking care of your health and well-being is extremely important. It affects your mind. It affects you spiritually. Recreational things, going out, spending time in nature.
Actually, that is very important. Just spending time outside in nature. Just go for a walk in the park, and it actually really refreshes your mind.
Extremely good.
Yeah, it's very good. And just take the time to observe nature too. Sometimes it's good just to sit outside and look at the blades of grass, and you see how they're all so different, and then there's little insects that keep coming there, and bees and ants and all that kind of thing. It's actually really interesting, and it just like make you appreciate life a bit more and the beauty of it.
It takes your mind off the crap.
Yeah.
One of the last things I'll share, and I'd love to do a whole episode on tools and strategies that can help because there's so much we can go into, is positive affirmations.
Yes.
So I'm not really into the I am affirmations. I know they work for some people. I find them a little bit baseless. They don't have enough depth. I find it's better to believe in something bigger than yourself, because as imperfect beings, if we keep saying I am great, I am this, I am that, you know you're going to screw up at some point, and you're like, oh, I'm not so great after all. Okay. And then just spiral all the way down. And I've seen this happen to people, especially even in the industry. There's many reasons why I'm not really 100% behind this type of affirmations. But what I find is very powerful, reciting some powerful verses. You see these prophets and even poets or great leaders who've lived before you, who've already done the great things, and they've left lasting legacies. Like I'm just thinking of Maya Angelou and Nelson Mandela and people like that who have said certain phrases that you always see everywhere. Powerful things that hold weight.
Exactly.
You say them over your own life, it's extremely powerful because they're tested and tried and true things, and words have a lot of power. Definitely. And then, of course, the number one source for me is the Bible.
Of course. Yeah.
I call them power verses. I go pick a power verse, like, for example, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So it's like an I, but it's I through Christ who strengthens me.
Oh, with God on my side, I will win.
That's what I always thought of as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
So it's like taking the attention off yourself and recognizing there is a bigger power than you that is helping you is extremely powerful.
And one thing like I did as a parent when they were all young, I made them learn a different Bible verse every week.
I remember that.
So now they have those verses in their brain all the time.
And I want to share more about that maybe in another episode because this can get very deep. Whenever I'm in a situation that feels very negative or I feel there's very dark energy in that room, when I start reciting the power verses, the energy in that room shifts.
Yeah.
And I even don't have to say it loudly. I could say it in my head or under my breath. But when I say it and I speak it, have faith in what I'm saying, I believe in it, the energy of that space shifts. And I have seen people change in front of me.
Yeah, and even within yourself, like if you're feeling very anxious about walking into like a meeting or a room full of people, whatever, if you have one of those power verses reciting in your head, it just gives you that added confidence, and that you know that you're fine and there's nothing to fear in that situation.
Definitely. And as someone who's tried a lot of different things, like I've done the IMs, the universal stuff, all of it, I have never come across anything that was more powerful than a word from the Bible.
Exactly.
I've never seen anything work as strong in that on a spiritual level. Definitely recommend trying if it's something that you've never done before. And
especially if you do suffer a lot from anxiety or depression or those kind of mental conditions, because I have in the past, and it really helps. It really helps to overcome any
definitely
mental
does.
things.
There's a lot of spiritual power that comes from those words. The Bible can be very overwhelming, especially if you've never read it before. But I encourage you to go through it and just find a couple of passages that actually relate to you.
Exactly.
And it could be anything that actually makes sense to your situation, and just start.
But sometimes if you read the Bible, you'll find certain verses will jump out at you. And those are the ones that you probably are relating to more and that have more meaning for you and your particular situation.
All in all, it's understanding while you're on this path of transition and transformation is to know that we live in a life that's seasonal. There are different seasons that we will go through, good, bad, ugly, amazing, prosperous, hard, and it's all a part of the existence of living on this earth. Everything is here to grow us into a greater version of ourselves, to discover things in us that we didn't even know were there, and to leave a lasting impact on this earth that's going to last for generations long after we've gone.
It's really just about having faith and just that connection to God, and you know that God is there and He cares about you and He's actually watching you and will direct your life. You just have to have the faith, and that's what it really boils down to.
And the more you build the relationship with God, you'll find your purpose becomes more clear. You'll get answers to a lot of questions that you have been searching for years. Things will fall more into alignment when you live a life that's built on a foundation of faith in something greater than yourself. So as we close today, I want to share with you this verse of John 15 that's written on the leaf dress behind me, just to encourage you, take what you will from it. So the verse is John 15, and it's about the vine and the branches. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken over you. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends, if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose and appointed you, so that you might go out and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command. Love each other. I'd love to close off with a prayer for anyone out there. You're in your transitional journey. You're going through hell. You've got your eyes on something greater for your life, and you're not quite there yet. May you find the encouragement and the faith you need to keep going and to get to that place. I thank you, God, for everyone who's tuned into this podcast today. I thank you for them and for their journey. I thank you that you are a good God. I thank you that your hand is always there to protect us. I thank you that you are always there whenever we need you. All we have to do is call on you and you will be there. I thank you, God, for everyone watching today. May they be filled with encouragement, filled with fresh ideas, new perspectives. May great opportunities find them wherever they are, even in the most obscure places. I feel to encourage someone today that you are watching and you're in a room right now. Nobody really knows your name, and you're thinking, how will anyone know me or what I do in this place? How will I ever move out here? I don't have the right connections or the finances to get out of this space. I want to encourage you that God can make miracles happen, to be open, to be faithful, to use what you have in front of you, and that God will make a way for you to prosper. Thank you, God. May you keep them strong even in the face of adversity. May you move the wrong things out of their life and bring the right things into their life. Thank you for the opportunities and the new people that are coming into their life to help them where they are. I thank you that you will reveal their gardener to them, and if it's you, may they find you even in the most obscure places, and may they feel your presence today. I thank you, God, that you will help us all to get to know you more, to get to know your true light, your incredible character, and your friendship. I thank you, God, that you would make your purpose and vision for every single person on this podcast tuning in, that it would be clear. I thank you that they would know what to do, even if they don't know exactly where they're going or how it's going to look. Thank you, God, that you are always with us, and we pray these blessings in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining me at Lakshmi B. If you were inspired or encouraged by this episode, please like and share with your family and friends. You can find out more about us at lakshmib.com and our socials at LakshmiB. Subscribe and join us on this journey. Together, we can all help make a global difference by simply doing what we can, using what we already have, and becoming the great people we were created to be.